Couple of schedule things as we kick off today. A reminder, after today, we've got one more lesson. So next Sunday will be our last regular lesson as we wrap things up. But then we will switch over into, sorry. I know, no, it's fine. I just, for a second there, I thought you had one of those giant like Red Bull cans or something. But I see it's just a water jug. Okay. Wow, you're going to find today I am easily distracted because my brain is working at about 4% capacity. So this could be a fun one or it could be really scary. Anyway, getting back to it. After our lesson next week, we will then switch into prep for Holy Week. So we'll start that a couple of weeks from now. 8th graders, you know what to expect. We'll do the same thing that we did last year. 7th graders, essentially, we're lining out what we're going to do for Easter morning, as well as a little bit for Good Friday, because you guys will help just a little bit with that too. So just note that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll start on that. Some sermon note questions. Did God control Jesus on earth? And so this is an interesting thing. So it kind of, the question sort of seems to be like, was Jesus almost like being remote controlled by God? Like a robot, maybe. Or did Jesus know everything that he needed to know when he came to earth? Or was it a mix of the two? I honestly have no idea. But it seems from what we have in the scriptures that Jesus was, what's that word, autonomous? Acting independently in the way that Jesus would pray and interact with God. So I don't think Jesus is being remote controlled. Michael.
I see if somebody could think that because doesn't somewhere in the Bible say like God in third person?
Mm-hmm.
But he messed up when he like had human emotions and stuff. He messed up on it, so all of it.
Jesus messed up?
I think.
You think so? What? Give me an example.
If he acts like a human, then he's gonna mess up.
But he didn't. But you know what? So actually, this is interesting and timely. So we'll go on a little tangent. Again, I'm going to be easy to get on tangents today. Remember a few weeks ago we talked about the temptation of Jesus in our lesson, maybe, I don't know, a month or so ago. That's actually our scripture lesson, our gospel lesson for today, for the sermon. So I'm going to probably kind of explore that just a little bit of what does it mean that Jesus was human and experienced life the same way we did and experienced temptation the same way we did, and yet somehow didn't mess up, even though he, yes, had emotions. And we see times when Jesus loses his temper. And I don't know. Interesting. Other thoughts? Okay. The whole mix of Jesus being divine, being God, and Jesus also being human just does not compute. So if that's confusing, it's okay, because it is for me too. I have struggled to wrap my head around it. Another question that came up, is there proof that Jesus' parents were actually named Mary and Joseph? Historically, not that I'm aware of. Basically, the only evidence we have is the information we have from the Gospels. So if the Gospels are to be believed, then I think they are. Then yes, Mary and Joseph were the parents. If historical evidence is to be believed, we have no idea. So, good question. Why are people so bad at listening? I don't know. Like, God makes the commandments and the people are instantly breaking them. Remember that story? Jesus is up the mountain. Not Jesus, excuse me. Moses is up the mountain getting the commandments while the people are literally down the mountain breaking the commandments. Takes no time at all. Why do you think humans are so ultimately selfish? What do you think? Why do we always want to get our own way? Because we want to get our own way, right? Like my way. What if my way is wrong? I still want to do it because it's still my way, right? What if I know it's wrong and I want to do it anyway? Then I need to grow up, right? Yeah. We just want our way. I don't know. Ali, was that your question? I feel like that came from you. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's human nature in a nutshell. That ultimately our selfishness will win, and I don't know why that is, but it seems to be the case. I wish people would be better at listening. I wish I would be better at listening because I know the thoughts that are in my head, and sometimes this is a dark, dark place. Sometimes I'm a salty old man. I don't know. Okay. What would have happened if Pilate had set Jesus free? Oh, what do you think? If Pilate had said, screw you people, he's innocent, I'm letting him go.
I would be dead.
Pilate would be dead?
I feel like Jesus.
Well, Pilate is dead now.
I bet you Jesus would just convince him to kill him.
Jesus would convince him to.
Condemn him.
No, I feel like Jesus would die too because people would be so mad that they would like disobey the laws.
They would just tear him to pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah? I don't know. How many people think that even if Pilate had ultimately held his ground and said, no, I'm not going to condemn him, Jesus would probably have ended up dead somehow. Do we collectively think that probably would have happened? Yeah. Do we think it would have happened by crucifixion or would it have happened some other way? Would have stoned him? What? Stabbed him? Now he's dead. Yeah, I agree. I think if Pilate had not ultimately bowed to the crowd, I think somehow Jesus would have ended up dead anyway, in one way or another. But okay, a lot of good questions. Who wants to open us in prayer today? Anyone? No one wants to make eye contact. Well, okay. They're kind of our go-to. Hey, it's fine. Then you don't have to worry about it at the end. Unless I'm really feisty and make it great at the end.
That'd be really mean of you. We give thanks that you give us hope when things seem hopeless. We give thanks that what seems impossible to us is possible for you. We give thanks that you offer us forgiveness, love, and a relationship with you, even when we don't deserve it. We give thanks for Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Okay, so last week, what did we talk about? What was our focal point? What part of the story? What part? Pilate, Herod, yep. Who's at the center? Jesus. What was going on with Jesus? He was getting condemned. What else? The condemnation led to what? Death. In what way? Crucifixion. And what did we learn about crucifixion? It's bad. Yes. What were you saying, Peyton? Yeah, it's bad. And as bad as we think it is, it's worse, right? Like it's brutal, it's horrible, it's horrible. Any lingering thoughts or questions or comments or things you've sort of been noodling about in the last week as we talked about it, you're wondering about? Okay. Where did Jesus end up when we left off? Where was he?
On the ground.
He was dead, yes.
The guy actually thought that he put him in the cave, and the woman was gonna do stuff, but then it was a Sabbath stuff.
So they're having that.
Okay, so Jesus is in the tomb, and he's dead, right? Yep. And do you remember what the guy's name was? Anybody remember? I'll give you a hint. It's sort of like Jesus' dad. Joseph of Arimathea. There was another guy who helped. Anybody know who the other guy is? Not David. Nicodemus, actually. Nicodemus, yep. Definitely not David. Okay. Now, where were the disciples? They ran away. So they're off somewhere in La La Land. We don't exactly know where. Why? Why did they run away? Because they're chickens. Why? Because they're human. Because they're fickle. They're selfish, right? Oh, that actually worked out really nice. Yeah. What are they afraid of? Death. Why would they need to be afraid of death? Yeah. Okay. Who's the one person who dealt with that directly? Peter. How many times? 3. And what did he do every time?
He's like, nope, I'm not him.
It's not me. I don't know. It's not me, man. Yeah. Who stuck around? Sam, you already said it.
The woman.
The women. The women stuck around and saw basically everything, right? They saw him die. They watched him on the cross. They saw him taken down off the cross. They saw where he was put. Now, they put him in the tomb. What else happened with the tomb? Not yet. Quickly, but not yet. They stuck Jesus' body in there, and then did they just leave it hanging open? They rolled a big stone in front of it. Why would they do that? To keep the body in, and people and or animals from going. Yeah, because what do you think? Animals can be like, lunchtime. Ew, but yeah. Right? Okay. Okay, so following the death and burial of Jesus, today we're going to fast forward. Anybody know how far? I bet you can figure it out. To the resurrection. How long is that? 3 days. Sort of. There's the voice crack that happens every single week. Sort of, right? Because when did he die? Friday, like late in the day, right? And when is he resurrected? Sunday, like first thing, right? Okay, so let's do the math. That's like 36 hours, right? Like basically a day and a half. So where do we get 3 days from?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
We're just being weird.
We just count it strangely, right? Yeah. Ollie, what are you saying?
Even though it honestly should be 2 because you don't count the one you're already on. And it starts at the beginning of the other one, so.
Yeah. It's weird, right? Anybody remember the slight distinction in the death day in John's gospel compared to the other 3? We did talk about this.
Isn't it the burglars or the thieves?
What?
Wasn't it the thieves that were next to him? Not the thieves.
In terms of the day, in John's gospel, is it the same day that the other 3 list, or is it a different day?
Probably a different day.
Based on my question, it's probably a different day, right? Do anybody remember which day?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday.
Wednesday. The early one. Well, no, actually, excuse me, Thursday. Thursday. Again, remember, my brain's not working very well today. And I tried to skip one day and went 2. But yes, he dies a day earlier. So maybe it's from John's gospel that gives us the 3 days. Maybe. Okay. I've already answered this question, but how many gospels are there? Are they all the same? What did we just establish? That one of them is different? Okay. Do you think the resurrection of Jesus is probably important enough to be featured in all 4? Yes, it is. Will the details be the same in all of them? No, absolutely not. Okay. Today we're going to stick with John's account. It's just the one that we're going to look at. But the others are worth checking out as well. Side note, Matthew's account is the one that we will look at and use for our preparation for Easter here in a couple of weeks. Because this year we'll be in Matthew's gospel when Easter rolls around. So we're going to go to John chapter 20. Everybody find it.
What page there, Michael?
768.
768. Did you just sneeze? How did you sneeze silently? You don't like sneezing? Like, when we sneeze, we just let it rip, right? Yeah. I mean, cover your mouth, because that's gross, but... Okay, all right. So let's read John chapter 20, verse 1. Leighton, you want to read verse 1 for us?
Early on the first day of the week, while they were still with Mary, Magdalene, ran to the tomb and saw the stone had been removed from the entrance.
Okay, so here's our first thing of items being different. Who does John tell us went to the tomb? Mary. Anybody else? Or just Mary? Yep, just Mary. Okay. What do the other Gospels say? It's a mix. It's more than Mary. John is the only one where it's just Mary. It's usually more than her. But sometimes we have these names, and sometimes we have a few different names. There's usually a lot of Marys. Mary was a very common name, including who? What other famous Mary do we know? Jesus' mom. Sometimes she's there, sometimes she's not. Sometimes there's one that's just called the other Mary. How'd you like to have that nickname? I'm the other one. Although we see that in some of the disciples too, right? There's the other James. There's that other Simon. Sometimes there's the other Judas. Yeah, okay. So it's a different grouping of women every time, but I just gave this away. What do we learn about the gender? It's always women. Yeah. Any guys? No. The guys do not go. Well, they do later, but initially it is the women. Okay. Why would that be significant? That sounded really weird. Hopefully it sounds better upstairs because the kids are obviously singing in church today. So hopefully it'll sound better upstairs. All right. Let me ask a different question. Why are the women going there? Yeah, to put spices, to anoint him. Does that, based on what we hear from verse 1 here, does that seem to be why Mary's going there? Or is she just going? She's kind of just going. Okay. Do you think that they anticipated finding anything spectacular to talk about? What did they anticipate finding? Finding a dead body, finding a tomb, probably finding the tomb closed with no idea how they're going to get in there, right? Yeah, okay. What does Mary actually find that's unexpected in verse 1? The stone is rolled away. So from the immediacy, she's like, this doesn't seem right. Okay. What do we know about the status of women at this time? Something that I like, but what do we know about it?
They don't hold any power.
They really don't hold a lot of power, typically. A few did, but usually they did not. Now, could they own property? No. A male family member had to own it for you. Could they be a witness in court? No, they couldn't. Not a credible one, anyway. Remember that. Okay? Now, to put another nail in the coffin, there's some speculation about Mary Magdalene based on some of the other Gospels. Does anybody know what that speculation is? That's the word they used back then. Yeah, there is speculation that Mary had some social things against her. Now, some scholars think this stuff is accurate, some don't. Some kind of question it. But here's what we do, or here are some of the things that are thought about Mary Magdalene. Some people think that she's the sister of Lazarus. What do we remember about Lazarus? He was raised from the dead. And he had two sisters, Mary and Martha. So Mary, remember? But Mary was a common name, right? Okay. Some people think that she was the sinful woman who washes Jesus' feet with her hair. I know, strange. Do you want to wash somebody's feet with your hair? Over your dead body? What about Jesus' dead body? No. It's a no. Hard pass. Hard pass. Okay. At one point, we do hear that she was possessed by quite a few demons. Like, we actually hear that. So, yikes. Who do you think helped her with that? Jesus. Okay, so maybe there's a reason she likes Jesus. Maybe. Okay. Some think that she may have been the woman who was caught in adultery, who was brought before Jesus. Probably not. Probably not, but some people think she was. Long story short, she does seem to have some strikes against her, whether accurate or not. But she is a woman that Jesus has forgiven, and when Jesus says something, it's true, right? Okay, so if Jesus says she's forgiven, what do we know about her? She's forgiven, right? Okay, so she wants to go to the tomb because Jesus is like really important to her for whatever reason. Now, if you listen to Dan Brown, who is an author that likes to write books, which is what authors tend to do, she was married to Jesus and had his child. Now, I do not share that with you thinking that I think that's accurate. Dan Brown's book is entertaining. I read it. I do not think it is true. However, if Jesus wanted to be romantically involved with someone, sure, why not? We never hear that he is, but who's to say he can't, right? And I'm sure Mary was a lovely woman. So if they wanted to have a relationship, that's on them, right? Yeah. I mean, maybe they were married. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they had a kid. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I wasn't there. But, okay. Yeah.
Imagine if you took like one of those like DNA tests that said you were related to Jesus.
Okay, tangent. Is that possible? From what we know, is that possible? You said yes. How come? Oh, you changed your mind. Okay.
We don't have his DNA.
Well, we don't have his DNA, so actually pulling this off would be difficult. But if we did, is it possible that you could find that you have DNA in common with Jesus?
Yes, but not like, maybe not like a direct descendant. Just
Okay.
like you were like one of Jesus' cousins, which is great times a million grandmother.
One of Jesus' cousins. Can we get any closer than that?
Unless Dan Brown
Wait,
was-
did he have
Siblings.
millions of years ago? So
Millions?
Doesn't have siblings.
however long ago.
Siblings.
Yes. Jesus had siblings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes. Jesus had siblings. He was the first child of Mary, but he was not the only child of Mary. Jesus had brothers and sisters. Technically, they would have been half brothers and sisters.
What happened to Joseph?
What-
You said half siblings.
Was Joseph Jesus' dad?
Oh no.
Genetically? No. Okay. Yep. Theoretically, but yeah.
I thought you just like dipped on Joseph.
Yeah. Joseph, we just kicked him out. But yes. So technically, it could be possible to have family DNA connection with Jesus. And really big, really dumb, stupid tangent side note. If we go back far enough to common ancestry, I mean, all human beings share a common ancestor. So it stands to reason, yes, we do all share DNA with Jesus. Okay. Now, side note about Mary. If you ever hear people throwing shade at Mary Magdalene, take it with a grain of salt. Because there is new scholarship going on literally right now based on one of the oldest manuscripts, one of the oldest existing manuscripts of John's Gospel that indicates a much stronger importance of Mary Magdalene than we have ever thought before. That she was actually considered very, very important to Jesus because Magdalene, which we tend to think of as just means that she's from the community of Magdala, that's not accurate. Magdalene is a nickname that means tower. I don't know why it means tower, but it does. Now, it's worse, Mary the Tower. Well, who is the only other person that Jesus gives a nickname? Nope, Peter. You remember what Peter means? Peter means rock. Yeah. Yeah, Jesus says, your name is Simon. I'm going to call you Peter. I'm going to call you Rock. And on this rock, I will build my church. Now, what do we know about Peter in the long run? Even though he's a moron, and he is, he goes on to kind of become a leader, right? And the Catholic Church believes him to be the first pope. Now, if Peter gets a nickname, or Peter is a nickname, and only one other person gets a nickname from Jesus, she must be special. She must be important. Now, based on this one verse that we've read in John's gospel, what's important about her?
She was like one of the first people to actually go check out.
Yeah, according to John's gospel, she is the first person to go and find the tomb, right? Okay, we've gone on a really long loop here, but it's important stuff. What I want you to take away from this is Mary is important. And that's a long way of to get there, but Mary is important, and in the other gospels, the women are important. Okay, we already talked about that. Let's read 2 through 10. Sam, you want to read that?
So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciples, the one Jesus loved, and said, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have put him." So Peter and the other disciples started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciples outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in. Then Simon Peter, who was behind him, arrived and went into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the burial cloth that had been around Jesus' head. The cloth was folded up by itself, separated from the linen. Finally, the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went inside. He saw and believed. They still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead.
One more.
Then the disciples went back to their homes.
Okay, so Mary shows up at the tomb. She does not find what she expected. What does she do? To do what? She goes to find the disciples and tell them. Now, did she go into the tomb? No, she just found it open, and she's like, weird. Okay, so then we have this moment with Peter and the beloved disciple. They run off to the tomb and find it empty. Do they know what to make of it? No, they're still kind of confused, right? One a little bit more than other. Which one a little bit more than the other?
The other disciple.
The other disciple is more confused than Peter? But based on my question, do you think maybe you should reverse that?
Well, I thought the other one got there first, didn't he?
Well, he got there first, yeah.
And he was still confused, and then Peter went in before him.
True. But as things continue, which one has a change of heart?
It says the other guy saw and believed.
Saw and believed. Believed what? Seemingly. Yeah. And what does Peter do? He kind of scratches his head. He doesn't know what to do. Way to go, Peter. Maybe instead of rock, it should be blockhead. He does have a lot going for him. Okay. Side note. Anybody know who this beloved disciple is?
John.
We tend to think of it as John. Now, which John? Because there's a lot of Johns. John. I mean, just John, right? Yeah. John that wrote the gospel?
That was it. That wasn't
You wrote the gospel? Is it John the Baptist? No, not John the Baptist. Is it John, the brother of James?
No.
Who was one of the disciples? Maybe. Okay. Was it one of countless other Johns? Possibly. Do we know who it is? No. Is he ever actually named?
He's just the other disciple.
He's the beloved disciple. Now, some people think it's Lazarus.
Wow.
Why would it be Lazarus?
His nickname might be John.
Nope. Anybody remember what happens when Jesus sees the tomb of Lazarus before he raises him? He cries. And the people are like, oh, see how he loved him? So maybe it's Lazarus. Probably not. Could be. Probably not. There is also speculation, scholarship, whatever, big people who all they ever do is read this and think about it, who think that the beloved disciple is you. And the reason for that comes from verse 31, where it talks about all of these things have been written down so that you may come to believe something. You may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name. I don't know. Because
Sorry, tangent.
What?
Continue, then I'll ask my question.
No, go ahead.
Can you make money being a scholar? Like, can I actually become a scholar?
Can you? Yes, if you are good at writing books and they sell a lot. Or you can go be a professor. where you won't make much money, but you can make some. It's kind of like being a pastor. Not a lot of money in it. Be a cool job? It could be. Or it could be really tedious. What do you do? I'm going to read old books. What are you going to do with them? Read more old books. Oh, well, then yes, go be a scholar. What's your job? I'm a scholar. What do you do? I scholarize. I don't think that's a word. I don't know. Okay. So the takeaway, we don't know who the beloved disciple is. There's a lot of speculation for who it is. Okay. So these two disciples have gone to the tomb. They have seen it empty. They heard Jesus say, I'm going to die and rise again 3 different times. Do they get it? One kind of does. The other one really doesn't. Okay. So where do they go? They go home. Like, this could be amazing or not. Let's go home. Okay. And did they tell anyone? Or have they yet? No. The most important thing in all of history that Jesus predicted, and they're like, Yeah, okay. Now, has anyone seen Jesus yet? Where is he? He's just, no, he's not in heaven yet. That happens 40 days later. He's just somewhere, but no one has seen him. All right, 11 through 13. Michael, will you read that, please?
But Mary stood outside of the tomb crying. As she left, she bent down over to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels in white seated where Jesus' body has been, one at the head and the other at the foot. Do you want me to read?
Yeah, one more.
They asked her, Woman, why are you crying? They have taken my Lord away, she said, and I don't know where they have put him.
Okay, so Mary's still around, right? Has she gone in yet? Up to this point. Okay, but now she's like, maybe I should look in there. And what does she see? 2 angels. And what is her reaction? Like, what is she doing right now besides looking in the tomb? Yeah, she's crying. Well, she's weeping. She's talking to them. They ask her, like, why are you crying? What's her response? They took the Lord away. They took his body. I can't find him, and I'm upset about it. Yeah. Okay, because I'm a tower, and I'm...
Was Mary like 6'5" or something?
She was super tall. I don't know. So what does she see that the 2 disciples did not see? Or should I say who? The angels. Yeah, the angels didn't show up to the 2 dudes.
For one thing, she's not scared.
She's not, yeah, that's true. Does she freak out? No. Is she already freaked out? Probably. Okay, yes. Now, they don't really tell her anything useful, right? Usually when angels show up, they have a message. They don't really seem to have much of a message. It's just like, what are you crying for? Like, dude, what's up? Yeah, okay. So she's troubled because she can't find his body. She can't find his body. What does she still think is true? She still thinks he's dead. And rightly so. He's dead, right? And logically speaking, is there coming back from that? No. Okay. All right. 14 to 18. Jason, you want to read that, please?
When she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, Women, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for? Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said to him in Hebrew,
Rabboni,
which means teacher. Jesus said to her, Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Lord, and she told them that he had said these things to her.
Who finally showed up? Jesus. Yes. I am sad. I don't know where his body is. Hi, random dude. Does she recognize him? No. Who does she think he is? The gardener, which is weird, but okay. Yeah. And what does she assume that he has done? Yeah. Did you move his body? Maybe? Sorta? Well, yeah. I mean, technically, yes, he did. Yeah. Did you move his body? If so, tell me where it is, and I'll take care of it. And what does it take for her to finally recognize him? He says her name. He calls her by name, and in that she recognizes him. And what does she do? She calls him Rabbi. She addresses him. Okay.
Jesus was a little different than ours.
What?
It said, Jason, what did it say? What did he speak it in? What did he say, Rabbi?
Hebrew.
Yeah, it says she turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, Rabboni.
Oh, Aramaic. Aramaic would have been the common language, like what people would speak. Everything was written in Greek, but they spoke Aramaic or Hebrew or Greek. They knew a lot of languages, which was impressive. Yes. Okay. So Jesus gives her a mission. What is it? Go tell them again, because you already talked to them once, and two of them showed up, and they're morons. One slightly less than the other one. Now, Jesus doesn't actually call them morons. It'd be funny if he did, but I don't know what the Aramaic for moron is, but actually I do. It's raka. Technically, it means fool, but close enough. How do I know that? Because Jesus says that in the Sermon on the Mount. If you murder someone, you're liable to judgment. If you are angry with your brother or sister, you're liable to judgment. If you call someone raka, you are liable to the no. What is it? If you insult your brother or sister, you're liable to the council. And if you say you fool, aka raka, you are liable to the hell of fire.
Do you think that's why Peter's nickname is Raka? It's short
For raka? Maybe. I never thought of that before, but that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm not going to call you Raka because then I'll go to hell. I'm just going to call you Rock. Okay. Wow. I like it when you guys take me on tangents. It's fun. Okay. All right. So, Mary, go tell my brothers. And what does she do? Okay. She goes and tells them. What else does Jesus say? Look at verse 17. 17 is interesting. Who was reading that? Jason, you want to read 17 again?
Jesus said to her, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God."
Okay. Ooh. What's that sound like? Those last two phrases right there. I am going where? And what does he say? I'm ascending to my God and your God, to my Father and your Father.
Wait. So, if God is both our Father and Jesus' Father, then we're simply with Jesus. Kind of.
Yes. We are. Why? Genetically?
Because God loves us. That's the solution to everything.
Or because Jesus says so? Yeah. Nice. I'm going to have you guys do the sermon today because I'll be honest, I got nothing. And you have better ideas than I do. Yeah, so if you're taking sermon notes today, hold on to your Bible. It's going to be weird. Okay. All right. So we've got Jesus all resurrected now, which is good, right? Means he's alive again. Is this the end of the story? Or do we go on? Okay, we go on. 19 to 26. Austin, read that for us, please.
On the evening of the first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when he saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that, he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." Now Thomas, also known as Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my fingers where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, let's stop there. Okay, so now we fast forwarded how far? Like that evening, right? It's still the same day. It's still like Easter Sunday night. Okay? And Jesus shows up again. To who this time? The disciples. Where are they?
In a house with doors.
Why?
Because the Jewish leaders are counting the kids.
They're still scared, right? Now, what happened this morning to two of them? They saw there's no Jesus where they expected him to be, which was where? In the tomb. Okay. Did they see the Jesus? Did they see Jesus? No. But who did? Mary. And did Mary tell them? Yeah, I have seen the Lord. Now, did she say, I found his body? No, what did she say? I saw him. He talked to me. He gave me a message for you. You're a crazy lady. You been reading Mark? Because that's anybody remember? Was it Mark or was it Luke? No, it was Luke. 8th graders. You remember this from last year? How did the disciples respond to the women when they told them?
Yeah, they told her she was crazy. They didn't believe her.
They called it an idle tale, right? Which is a nice way of saying what? You can say it. You can say the word that you know I want to say right now. Bullshit. Yeah. Like, he's not alive. He can't be alive. He's dead. Right? Okay. But that was a different gospel lesson. So here in John, she shows up and she's like, I saw the Lord. He said to tell you, I'm going to the Father and your Father and my God and your God. And then we don't know how they respond. Okay? So now it's evening and they're still in the house and they're still freaked out because they're afraid they're going to die too. And Jesus shows up. Now, what did we hear about the door? It was locked. Does that stop Jesus? Does he knock the door down or is he just kind of there? He's just kind of there, right? He's just like, oh, guys, what's up?
You see that in your sermon.
Remember that for Easter? Let's remember that for Easter. That's kind of fun. Okay, he just sort of shows up. He doesn't knock on the door. He doesn't ask to come in. He doesn't unlock the door or knock it down. He's just kind of there. What does that tell us about the resurrected Jesus?
Not even a door can stop him.
Is he still the same? Because do you think Jesus could Jesus is God. God can do amazing stuff. But do you think prior to the resurrection that Jesus could just like pass through a locked door? I mean, maybe, but probably not. Yeah. He could just pick the lock. He'd be like, open. But now it seems like he can just somehow pass through walls or he can just sort of appear, which is weird, right? Okay, so does it seem that he's still fully normal human at this point? Kind of, but kind of not? Okay, yes. It seems that he is no longer limited by the things that limit us, like physically, right? Okay. I can't go through that wall unless all of the atoms in your hand align perfectly with the atoms in the wall and the gaps, because remember, atoms are mostly empty space, and if the stars align, you can put your hand right through the wall. I don't suggest trying it, you'll break your hand. But theoretically, it's possible. Another weird tangent. Okay, now, keep in mind, Jesus promised us in our baptisms that we will join with him in a resurrection like his, right? We say that every time we have a baptism. So, what do you think that means for us in the long run, aka when we join in the resurrection? Will we still be the same, or will we be somehow changed?
We'll be able to go through walls too.
We also will be able to go through walls. Like, that's going to be cool. I guess.
If you like go through a wall, what happens when you like sit down? You just go through a chair.
Maybe you have to want to.
You can turn it on.
If you want to sit down, you can sit down. But don't instantly think, I could pass through this chair, because then you're going to fall. That would hurt. Yeah.
That'd be scary. You're just in your chair like, don't think about it, don't
Yeah. Okay, so we've learned that in the resurrection that Jesus is somehow different. However, when he addresses the disciples, what does he say to them? Well, he says, peace be with you, because they're freaked out. But then what does he do? What does he physically do?
Look at my hands.
Look at my hands. Look at my feet. Look at my side. Why? What's there?
They're complete.
The holes are still there.
Nothing. Yeah.
No, the holes are still
The
there.
holes were there, but nothing was like
Right. The holes from what?
the nails.
The nails and the spear, right? Okay, so are the signs of the crucifixion still present? Yes, they are. So he has somehow changed, and yet does that erase the crucifixion? No, it still happened. Okay, cool. Now, who is not there that we hear about? Thomas. Thomas is one of the disciples, right? We don't know where he is, but bummer for him, he's not there. So what do the other disciples do when they find Thomas? What do they say to him?
Wow. So this happened and we missed it.
They are probably gloating, because I get the sense that Thomas was a little bit of a jerk.
It's like the Tostitos commercial when he leaves and then stuff happens.
Okay. What do they actually say to Thomas? We have seen the Lord. All right, back up. What did Mary say to the disciples?
I've seen the Lord.
Yes, same message, right? I have witnessed the resurrected Lord. Okay, cool. They testify to what they have seen. Now,
Jesus can go through walls. He should go like car pilot and stuff.
No, because
you could have prevented
But he
this.
wanted to.
Oh. He probably would.
Yeah, he probably would.
I'm guessing he probably would. He had bigger fish to fry.
It would be funny.
Yeah, it would be funny. Okay. 27 to 29. Reagan, you want to read that?
A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." And Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed."
Okay. So, bummer for Thomas on day number 1. And we fast forward a week. We don't know what happens in that week. We don't know what Jesus is up to. We don't really know what the disciples are up to, except that they're still in the house because they're still freaked out. Like, come on, guys, get with the program. Who's with them now? Thomas is there. Who shows up again? Hi, I'm back again. Thomas, what's up, dude? That's Jesus the musical. Okay. So he shows up. He has the same greeting again, peace be with you. And then, hey, Thomas, come here, dude.
Oh, that would be so wrong.
I know, it would be weird. And does Thomas actually do it? No, he doesn't. I think Jesus called him on his crap. Like, you think you got to see? Yeah, well, here it is. Come on, dude. And Thomas is like, no, I'm good. How does Thomas actually respond? What does he say? My Lord and my God. He is the only person to make that confession, that Jesus is my Lord and my God. In the entirety of the 4 Gospels, he's the only person who says it. Now, what do we tend to think of with Thomas? That he's a doubter, right? That he doesn't believe anything, which is true. But then he has an encounter with the resurrected Lord, and he makes a confession that no one else makes. So maybe we got to quit throwing shade at Thomas, or at least acknowledge that, well, he did something good too. Okay. All right. Now, is this the end of the story? Or there's still more gospel left, right? Okay. 30 and 31. Allie, you want to read that for us? You're good. Keep going. Let me help you out. I'll help you out. All right. Now, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name. Okay. Now, why are all these things written down?
Because we need to know.
What did it just say? These have been written down so that you may hear them and come to believe. Believe what? That Jesus is God. That Jesus is Lord. Okay, cool. Now, when every single one of these people that we've talked about today, when they experience the resurrected Lord, when they have that moment, that experience with him, what do? They say something. They bear witness to what they have experienced. There's another word for that. It starts with T. It ends with estified. Yeah, good. They testified. Okay, so what does that mean when we have come to believe? What are we supposed to do? Testify. Testify. Get Pentecostal. I want to see the hands go up.
I'll do that at church today.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So, resurrection. Cool thing? Yeah. All right. What might Jesus be changing in terms of perception given who he appears to initially? Think about how we started this. Who does he show up to? Mary. In the other Gospels, who does he show up to? The group of women, right? As opposed to the 12 disciples who dropped the freaking ball, right? Now, are they ultimately redeemed of that? Yeah, actually in chapter 21, we hear about that. We're not going to read it, but we do. So there's always hope that even when we screw up, that we can come back and try again. But Jesus takes the ultimate unexpected people and makes them the first people to bear witness to the resurrected Lord. Now, when someone is bearing witness or talking about the resurrected Lord, what types of people do we tend to think of as doing that? Pastors, right? Not just pastors, but pastors. Okay, so these different denominations that say that women can't be pastors. What word do I want to use? Don't, because there's kids around. You know the word?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So,
Just yelled it out for the children.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I've done that, but I try not to do it very often. Yeah, there probably would be. Every once in a while when I swear in a sermon, I get a little side-eye. Do you think I care? No. Not really. It's my job, and they get pissy, I guess. They get pissy. But, yeah. So the takeaway, why I want to highlight that so much, is our faith tradition, our denomination, whatever we want to call it, we ordain women. Women can be pastors. I'm married to one, so obviously I think so too. Ladies, never let someone tell you that you don't have a place in the church, because that's a load of crap. Okay, cool. Who wants to pray us out here? It can be super quick because we went long today. Peyton is off the hook unless I feel like a jerk. I don't feel like a jerk. It's fine. Sam, pray us out here, right? Amen. Awesome.